Hi, Nancy Burgess Strategic Marketing, transforming today's brands for a digital world. Last time we talked in our video about what content marketing is, and we talked about 5 valuable reasons that for small and medium-sized businesses to participate in a content marketing strategy. Today we're going to talk about what are the 6 steps of creating content. And the first step is to plan it. The second step is to create it. The third step is to iterate it or curate it. The fourth step is to promote it or distribute it. The fifth step is to convert it, and the last step is to analyze it. Okay, so let's start with the first step. The planning is probably the most important step, and it's a step that people often, the chair's crooked, okay. And it's a step that people often skip, and really it's the most important step. So the first thing you want to do is clearly define your audience. Remember our definition from last time? You create and distribute content to a clearly defined audience. So who is your clearly defined audience? That's your persona or your avatar. That's that really specific stereotype of your customer. And yes, not all your customers are male or female, but the majority probably are one way or the other. There may be an age range that's most popular. And yes, there's an age range but what is that stereotype? Because that's going to help you when you go to create your content to kind of have a vision of who you're speaking to and what interests them. It will also tell you where you're going to find those people, and that's really important for planning. So for example, if you're targeting long-term insurance to 40-plus-year-old people or retirees, you're not going to want to necessarily be on TikTok or Snapchat. That, it might sound fun. It might be what the person who's, creating the social media content is interested in, but it's not where your target customer is. It's not where your persona is. It's not where your avatar is. So you do want to create content and distribute it where the people are going to be. So the first thing is to clearly define that audience, because once you define that audience, what are they interested in? What are their social clubs? Are they on social media? Are they not on social media at all? Majority of people are on social media now, so there's usually some channel at least that's appropriate. And then part of that planning is to figure out the timing. When are you going to produce the content? And also, what type of content are you going to produce at each stage of your funnel? And we talked about the funnel last time. So usually you start with a large piece of content that you can break down into bite-sized pieces. So you may have a blog or a video, and then you iterate that into different pieces of content. On social media or on other channels. Another thing you want to do is create your schedule. So when are you going, remember that part of that definition was consistent. So when are you going to post the information? When are you going to schedule it? When is it going to be written by? Because that really helps you to be consistent with your content marketing. Yeah. And another thing that you want to look at is how are you going to analyze or measure your success? How will you know if it's working? What if nobody comes and reads your blog? What if nobody's watching your video? How will you know that? What are you measuring in terms of the digital marketing? That's one of the things that's so wonderful about digital marketing, is that you can measure everything. I love data. I love words. I love data. But especially, I like to get in there and see, is it working? How can we break this down? What age groups really are interested in our business? And then we can keep fine-tuning our persona, because we're finding out, we thought our target audience was 25 to 35, but really they're more like 35 to 45, things like that. So plan your audience, know how you're going to measure it, know how you're going to schedule it, know who's going to do it, because this does take some time to create. It's a long-term strategy that's really successful and has a good ROI, but it takes a little doing. One of the things that we do to help our customers is that we create content we interview subject matter experts and we write their blogs for them, or we help generate their content for them. They review it, they get the byline author, which makes sense, and we'll get to the next step. And part of that, a reason that it makes sense, is because when we go to create content, we want to have EAT. And if you're not familiar with Google's guidelines of EAT, and it has nothing to do with food, unfortunately. So it's EAT has to do with expertise, authority, and trust. And it's important for the person that is having the byline or writing the article to have that expertise, that authority, that trust. If the person has medical credentials, that's going to be a lot more believable than if a person is me saying, if you have back pain, this is what you should do, right? So the credentials matter for that, and establishing that person's credibility online is important, and their author credentials, especially if it's a your money or your life, a YMYL website, your money or your life. In other words, if anything that has to do with investing, or and there's also certain guidelines around that, if with the SEC and things like that. But anything that has to do with people spending money, or especially large sums of money, or having to do with their health, their life, this is especially important to have that EAT, that expertise, that authority, that trust. So you create that content, and then you'll iterate it or curate it, put it into bite-sized pieces. And don't be afraid of a longer blog. You may think, oh, people don't read that, but put in more pictures, put in bullets and different things. But be comprehensive in your content, because it will rank better in organic. The more signals that you give Google about what your article is about, the better it is likely to rank. So you do want to iterate or curate your content. That's step 3. So we planned it, we created it, we iterated it or curated it. Those are just words for breaking it down into other bites where you're going to promote it. And that is the 4th one. The 4th thing you're going to do is promote your content. So you'll distribute it, you'll promote it. You might buy some paid advertising to drive people to your blog. You might post it on social media and then boost it. You may, to get more traffic to it, you may, do different things to distribute your content on different channels. It may go on, let's say, Instagram, if you have pictures and things like that. But if your target audience, even if they're on Instagram, if you're selling something like circuit boards or some, piece of mechanical equipment that goes in a wash machine or something, it's probably Instagram isn't the place for you. But if you're selling something that, you can show people, getting better fitness, or showing beautiful pictures of food or homes or interior design, Instagram's a great place to be, to showcase videos and things like that. And in a lot of our articles, you can see, for example, we have a social media ebook on our website. And it links to some great research that shows exactly what kind of online social media people are using for different age groups, different demographics, things like that. So that's really helpful to look at. And they usually come out with a new one every year. They didn't come out with one in 2020, but 2020 was 2020. So the 5th thing that you want to make sure that your content's doing, and this isn't necessarily a separate step, but you just want to make sure that you put this into your creation and your iteration and your promotion or distribution of your content, and you want to convert it. You want to have a conversion at each stage. And think of that in terms of like a CTA, what they call a call to action. It has nothing to do with Chicago Transit Authority. CTA is a call to action. So these calls to action, let's say they read your blog, that call to action might be to subscribe to the blog. So you're creating this awareness, and they'll get messages. I can't tell you how often I've sent out like a monthly email. I try not to spam people, because I know people have a lot of email in their inbox. But when I do post a new blog, it'll go out in an email to announce it. And when I do that, I can't tell you how often I'll have someone ping me back and say, oh yeah, I've been meaning to contact you, or things like that. So it's a great way to distribute content and start pulling people along from the top of the funnel to the middle of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel, etc. So you do want to know how you will convert at each stage. So it might be, at the bottom of the funnel, as we mentioned before, it might be, an offer, or, attending a webinar, it goes into more depth, or things like that. While at the top of the funnel, you're not asking for a lot. I put a blog on my website about content marketing for for small and medium-sized businesses. And I made the comparison to relationships, because at the top of the funnel, it's kind of like flirting. And then in the middle of the funnel, it's kind of like starting to date. And then at the bottom of the funnel, it's maybe getting engaged and, or, whatever the next step in the relationship is. And at the very, very bottom of the funnel, it's, keeping the marriage alive. So each stage of the funnel, you wouldn't start out with somebody who just, met you and say to them, hey, you want to marry me? You want to take people through those stages of the funnel. So each stage of the funnel, and on our website, you can see what some of those calls to action are at different stages of the funnel. But at each stage, you want to bring them naturally along to the next step. So maybe you have a comparison of pricing, features and benefits, somebody like who's maybe a little more deeply interested in buying a product, and then the next step might be, try a demo, that kind of thing. And then you kind of bring people along at each stage. So I'm Nancy Burgess. I'm Nancy Burgess Strategic Marketing. We transform today's brands for a digital world. Thanks for tuning in, and have a wonderful day. Thanks.